All right, Vikings Circle presented by On Location, and we have the special privilege of being joined by a Hall of Famer, Mr. Cris Carter. Appreciate you joining me today.
It's good to be home, man.
That's all you got to say.
Yeah, it's good to be home. This is it.
First thing you said is, hey, look at these manicured practices. This is beautiful.
It's amazing. Where the Vikings are now is just so, it's epic. I mean, not the facility, and then you just see everything associated with the medical staff, the hotel. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for the players, like the organization, and you have to take your hat off to the Wilf family. Like, you can't hide the money. And you can see the whole NFL, everybody's making money, but everybody's not spending it like them. So the players, the resources, the food, the other services provided for the players is second to none in the league, and that's great to see.
You know what else is great to see? You get in this card and let's take off. Oh, let's do it. Here we go. Well, you're also in town for another event over at the Omni, the Salvation Army event.
Absolutely.
Down for the challenge. Like, could you give us a description of what brings you back to Minnesota to participate in such a great cause?
Well, for one, I have a partnership with Salvation Army. As a kid, my mom had 7 kids before the age of 25, and there were no dad in the home. My mom got kicked out of high school when she was 16. So the ability for her to earn a significant income and everything, that didn't come until later in her life. So we needed a lot of help, personal assistance as far as clothing, food, and Salvation Army was there for us in southwestern Ohio, for me and my brothers and sisters. Holidays, being able to get gifts from them, the ability to be able to get something in the holiday season, it's amazing. And that's what Salvation, they played that role for me. And the Vikings have a partnership with them, and they approached me about joining that partnership. And this is one of the several events that I do with Salvation Army and the Vikings.
That's awesome. You talk about just your upbringing and how things have transpired to where you are right now. What would you say is the biggest reason why Cris Carter is able to wear that Hall of Fame jacket?
I just always believed in myself.
Okay.
I just always knew that sports was special, and just along the way too, I had a lot of people placed by God in my life as far as coaches and mentors and everything to make sure that I stayed on the right path. So I think just a constant belief in self, even then when there was doubt, and even then when you don't have the results that you want to get, you're able to continue believing in yourself, and people believe in you. So that's a critical part in anybody's journey.
I'm gonna have you put on your fan hat here. If you could get tickets to any one of your Vikings games and watch it as a fan, front row, what game would it be and why?
I think the 5th game when I was here with the Vikings after being cut by Philadelphia, we played Philadelphia on Monday night. And a lot of people don't realize that I wasn't starting at the time, but Anthony Carter had strained his hamstring in warm-ups, which in turn gave me the start 5 weeks after Buddy Ryan had cut me. So then it was like, oh my God, Monday Night Football back against the Eagles in Philadelphia. I had an epic game against them. And it was amazing as you watch the highlights, I was able to do everything in the highlights that Buddy Ryan said I couldn't do.
Oh, wow.
I had a 75-yard touchdown, had a lot of critical catches, and to me that it still took a little while for me to take off, but to me that was the beginning. That put so much faith in me that this is what I thought that I could do. Now if I can just become consistent, this is the kind of career that I think that I can have.
Man, your career turned out to be one of the greatest careers, not only in Vikings history, but NFL history. But I'm gonna have you exclude yourself for this next question. If you could have a Mount Rushmore of Vikings greats, who would the 4 be, excluding yourself?
Wow, I think the way the game is developed, if you're gonna start that way, you have to start with the Honorable Alan Page. And you gotta start with some defense. Like, you gotta start with a player that, kind of redefined his position. And then as a man on and off the field, the level of expertise and excellence he set for the players that are former Vikings. This guy went on to be a judge. They went on to be a Supreme Court judge. So that right there, I think would be, you'd have to start that way. And then a quick pick, if I had 2 in the first round, it would be, you got to pick Fran Tarkenton.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
The iconic figure in his style of play. You know, a lot of Vikings fans were developed in those early 70s by Fran Tarkenton, you know, playing the game. And then after that, it becomes very, very difficult to separate the rest of them. We only have 4 players, but I'm gonna have to pick 5 because you have to pick Randy Moss in there.
Okay.
He's one of the most dominant players in the history of the game.
Ever.
You have to pick Randall McDaniel because to me, consistently, he's one of the greatest players I ever played with. And I had 8 Hall of Fame teammates in Philadelphia and here in Minnesota.
Wow.
And then Johnny Randall. Johnny Randall to me was the energy. If you're gonna have a team, you're gonna need somebody to be able to bring the energy on a consistent basis. So Johnny Randall, probably the closest Viking that I'm to. Amazing example, not drafted. Not compared to those other players, not drafted. Started off running down on the kickoff team for the Vikings, ended up with a gold jacket. Moss speaks of itself. Randall McDaniel, he is one of the best offensive linemen in the history of the game. And Fran and the Honorable Mr. Page, I think that's a pretty good team.
My last question for you, talk about great Vikings. There's a really great Viking that plays your position in Justin Jefferson. Has the opportunity to break every record in franchise history. How do you see him leading this team to ultimately the promised land, hopefully, if not this year, then a few years down the road?
This is the one thing I probably have to take a little time out to start with, because this is the way Randy started his career. And people started talking about the end of his career. And I'm not trying to say Justin is that, but careers have a long story. And the first few chapters of his story, they're amazing. I've seen those records and everything. They're not as easy to break as as you think.
Yeah.
I mean, 100 career touchdowns, 8 consecutive Pro Bowl seasons. That's hard to do. Like this, it's hard to do. But I think this organization, the general manager, they're going to put the supporting cast around him that he's going to reach his potential, and that's what we should be concerned about.
Right.
Like, how good can he be? Not how good is he now, but how good can he be, and can we put the supporting cast around him to really be able to maximize who he is as a player?
Out of all those receivers that you just named that are great, I still believe you got the best hands to ever grace this purple franchise. Appreciate you, Cris.
Yeah, I think that too.
Appreciate you.
You're a smart guy.
Yeah, hey, gotta respect the legends.